back, and here we are on the verge of Christmas, and no let up in big events. In fact, some gigantic events, which we'll cover. And what do you say we get rolling?
Mm-hmm. Well, war seems to be a major global theme. Could you summarize your views on Ukraine, Venezuela, and the Middle East?
Yeah, let's start with Ukraine. This seems to be a war that NATO does not want to terminate. And as a result, they're sabotaging every effort by Trump to bring about a ceasefire, a truce, and a surrender. NATO doesn't want to surrender because there's much more population in Ukraine to wipe out. In fact, the EU Commission, I regard them as the fascists running Brussels, and they've actually threatened to dump collectively $2.4 trillion of treasury bonds suddenly in order to have Trump pull back, withdraw his initiatives for peace. They don't want peace. NATO doesn't want peace. And they're a really big problem. So I really don't know how this is going to end. But if there are further attacks inside Russia, Russia is sooner or later going to hit NATO bases in European countries. So it's at a stalemate, and there's really not a whole lot of progress. And there is a general attrition wiping out the Ukraine male population. And people need to understand, this is not well known, and it's certainly not in the press, but Ukraine is the trafficking center of Europe. All kinds of trafficking is going on. Drugs, kids, bioweapons, adrenochrome, everything. It's a very hot topic. I try to leave it alone, but I just want to mention it in passing. Moving on to Venezuela. It appears that the United States has declared war against Venezuela. There are numerous, it's hard to give them a good name, fast-moving boats with twin powerful engines that move at 50 miles an hour. That's hard to imagine on a lake at a resort. 50 to 50 miles an hour. And this is in the open sea. And they're carrying drugs. They're carrying much more than drugs. And there's a big debate on whether it's lawful for the U.S. military to seize them, to board them, and to destroy them with ignored warnings. And I believe that they are lawful. That's my opinion. I believe it's lawful. I think it's a war zone. It's far more than drugs. I'm talking about narcotics, amphetamines, fentanyl, you name it. It's more than that. I've heard from military sources that on these fast-moving boats, and these are boats, 20 feet long, 25 feet long, 8, 10 feet wide. They're not huge, but they carry a big cargo. They can hold a ton. I'm told that they are carrying microbes to infect U.S. farmland. I don't think all of them are, but some of them are. So there is a general attack going on. And it's becoming more widespread known that Venezuela was a major center for developing fraudulent voting machines and as an internet site, a hub for falsifying voting data in U.S. elections. I regard Venezuela as a narco state. They had an election several months ago. A certain woman, a progressive, a conservative type, an anti-narco type, won, and she was intimidated to step back so that Maduro could continue. This is a narco state. They're conducting assaults on the U.S. nation. And just for some reference, the distance between Caracas, Venezuela, and Miami is about 1,500 miles. So it's not far and it's not close. I think there might be an invasion. I think it's first going to be commandos, special forces. I heard a report a week ago that Maduro went into hiding. He's the strong man. I love that word. He's the autocrat. He's the dictator. He's the fascist leader. He's the narco state's Führer. We're at war with Venezuela. They unloaded, I think it was 20 to 30,000 prisoners, many of whom were from the Tren de Aragua cartel. They went all over the United States. They conducted assaults on buildings in Texas, Denver, and elsewhere. Okay, this is a narco state. We're at war with Venezuela, and I'm 100% behind Trump. And I believe all his high sea actions have been legally carried out from what I understand. Okay, the Middle East, let's just say a certain little country that controls a lot of the U.S. Congress and a lot of judges and a lot of other officials in the United States with bribery in a circular funding from the United States to that country that goes back in the form of bribery. They have pretty much won a license for genocide.
What's going on in the Middle East war-wise?
No, I'm sorry. I just answered that. Could you go to the question zero, Jim?
Okay.
About silver?
Sure. With silver, huge developments have hit the stage. Can you summarize some major events?
This is very complex, very exciting, and historically unprecedented. We had hints a few months ago with weird activity between London and New York for vacating vault supply for silver and gold. Silver is a little bit more in focus right now because there's an industrial deficit. It's been going on for years. Let me give you a preview, a preliminary concept regarding silver. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the price of silver was less than half of what it is now. So now the price is more than double what it was a decade ago or more. The price is double, and the mine output is less. The price is double, and the output for global mining is less. And it's declining every year. Okay, we're in a situation, it's called inelastic supply. Inelastic supply. It doesn't matter if the price goes up. We're not going to see much more supply. The only new source of supply will come from recycling, and I'm sorry to say, but citizens giving up their silver just to maintain their standard of living and pay the bills. We've got inelastic demand. As the price goes up, the demand goes up. We got inelastic supply. As the price goes up, the supply goes down. Okay, J.P. Morgan. Oh, I should mention something else. It was a few weeks ago. Thanksgiving, Wednesday and Friday were big events. The COMEX shut down for what they called air conditioning problems. I call it a sewage backup problem that hit the floor, fecal matter on the floor. That's my metaphor for corruption hitting the floor. They basically shut down trading because an approved trader, that's an official term, had an enormous $24 million order for silver. And the COMEX could not meet that demand. So they shut it down, made up a bullshit story of air conditioning problem, and it was really a vacant vault problem. And the price doesn't reflect a vacancy like that. The price should be well over $100 by now. But we're getting there. We will get there, maybe by next year. In fact, I'm rather confident by next year. Okay, there are other events that are magnificent. J.P. Morgan pulled $24 million worth of silver that day out of eligible and made it registered. And I believe what that means is it's no longer eligible for the ramp and delivery, and it's in the vault, but it's declared as do not touch. And since the price has gone up $10, $12, $14 since, we've got a $300 million gain by J.P. Morgan on that amount of silver that was not permitted to be legally delivered according to futures contract. So we got a crime scene in the COMEX. Furthermore, there are rumors and reports and some scanty evidence that J.P. Morgan is sitting on 750 million ounces of silver. 750 million ounces of silver in a long position, but at the same time, they've got 40,000 short contracts in silver, short. They're holding silver metal, 750 million ounces, but they got 200 million ounces of silver on short contracts that are due in December. Okay, this is an electric situation in silver. There are rumors going around, and, it's just talk, but, when you mix the talk with the concept of silver becoming a national security metal, there is a possibility that they're going to shut down silver trading in the COMEX. That is a possibility. Let's just watch that. Okay. Thanks.
What would happen to the people holding silver if they shut down the trading?
I said the trading in the COMEX. That's futures trading.
Right.
The dealers might continue. Mm-hmm. The market might continue outside of futures. The COMEX is a crime scene. They've got naked shorts there, which means they don't post collateral and they have no consequences when the market goes against their positions. But the market for selling and buying silver, that's brisk in Mexico at the ports. Mm-hmm. It's brisk with the Canadian mining firms. It's brisk in the western states of the United States. It's an interesting question, and we don't really know. There's no price discovery. The words price discovery are very misleading because there's no discovery of price. There's control of price. We don't discover what the true price of silver should be for next month by having futures operating as contracts. They use that to control. They have single day dumping of an entire annual mining output in 1 hour. They dump an annual mining output volume. Okay, that's how they control and corrupt the silver price. Okay, we're about to see some real price discovery, and we might need to shut down the COMEX in order to find out what the price is. That's real price discovery. All right, let's move on.
Is another U.S. government shutdown likely in the next few months?
It really could be. And we went through the rigmarole and the nonsense and the deception and the disruption and the confusion a couple months ago. It lasted for, I think, 40 days plus. What most people don't understand is that there was a continuing resolution, and that's a patch on the wound and not a cure of the wound. It's just a patch. So when they run out of time at the end of the year, or I don't know, it could be the end of January, we might go through this whole thing all over again. Shut down the government, controversy over what gets funded, Social Security funding, military funding, judicial funding, judges on the bench. Okay, let's see what happens. I think there's a little more fear in the Congress for opposing Trump And that has to do with Senator Kelly of Arizona advocating disobedience in the military against the commander-in-chief. That's pure sedition. So I'd like to see Senator Kelly of Arizona and 5 others arrested straight out of their congressional seats. Just JAG officers, U.S. Marines enter the Congress and arrest them with handcuffs right out of the Congress. That's what I would like to see. But that may not happen. We'll see what happens. Anyway, yeah, there could be another shutdown. We got to watch the drama. Schumer has completely lost power as a Democrat. He's being seen as a moderate now, a moderate Democrat amidst wild-eyed liberal fools, the extremists. Okay, let's move on.
The Federal Reserve has a mysterious foundation at this time. What's likely to happen with the Fed chairman post next?
For the last 2 years, I believe that a Wall Street consortium has owned and controlled the Federal Reserve, and amidst a war with Europe, a compromise was made to have Jerome Powell, formerly of BlackRock, serve as the Fed chairman. That's coming to a head. That's coming to an end. And it looks like there's some concession by the BlackRock Powell. He must be viewed as a BlackRock agent. He's not a Wall Street creature. Trump wants a Wall Street creature because Trump and Wall Street are working hand in glove. I think we're going to see a different Fed chairman, and behind the scenes, maybe a different structure of the Fed, a different contract. I think it's a work in progress, the Fed structure, the Federal Reserve structure. So Trump has openly said he wants to be consulted for Fed rate cuts. Trump wants a 1% flat, which means several more cuts, which is really quite interesting given the $1 trillion plus. Oh gosh, I really don't know what the deficit is. I hear that it's $1 trillion every 80 to 90 days now, $1 trillion. And if it's that, then we're talking $3 trillion a year. We're talking $3.5 trillion a year in deficits. I don't know how much funny accounting they conduct, but I believe Trump is going to get his man as chairman. He's going to get the rate cuts. We're going to, in the face of huge deficits and a credit crisis, we're going to get cuts. We're going to see empty rooms for Treasury bond auctions. You need to raise the rates to have people show up to buy bonds. If you lower them, you get an empty room. So we're going to be buying our own bonds. We'll have the Exchange Stabilization Fund as a big buyer. This is going to be wild. We've never had rate cuts with such huge deficits. And that's one of the biggest reasons I think Powell has refused to cut. He sees the risk of huge supply in the form of big-time deficits. Okay, it's going to be exciting. Let's move on.
The king dollar's in trouble. The CBDC concept and the stablecoin concept are interwoven. Can you sort it all out for us?
Not in 5 minutes or less, but let me just say that the CBDC, the central bank digital currency, which is just a digitalized form of the national currency, it is a very popular device in many other countries. But when it comes to the United States, it's regarded as a globalist fascist tool to bring about digital ID, credit scoring, and basically fascist rule at the financial level. I don't believe we're going to see a CBDC in the United States, but I think we're going to see numerous CBDCs of a legitimate type in foreign countries. And that's a very interesting contrast. Okay, the stablecoin concept to me is an attempt to make